Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think there's 11 guys on our team that are on our team today that were there in Fayetteville. 9 of those guys are starters today that probably weren't starters back then at that time. And so, we can use little subtle video reminders and things of what that moment was like. But at the end, it's going to be their leadership, right? Because we may have some players, younger players, that are looking like it's just another game. And I know those guys are in that locker room right now talking about that game and talking about that environment and owning that environment and why it's important to own it and having the right poise and composure, staying enamored with what we need to do. But I know all 11 of those guys probably got a pretty bad taste in their mouth and got a chip on their shoulder from the last time we were there.
That was Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian talking about the last time his Longhorns played against the Arkansas Razorbacks in 2021. That was Sarkisian's first year. And things, if you remember right, as a Texas fan, did not go very well. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Horns Report. I'm your host, Billy Gates. And, of course, we're talking about UT football. And with me to chat about it, as always, is KXAN Sports Director Roger Wallace. And, Roger, I think most Texas fans would like to forget about 2021 and the beatdown they took in Fayetteville, 40-21 at the hands of the Razorbacks. Texas was ranked number 15 at the time, and that win was a pretty big deal for Arkansas, and it kind of served as sort of a welcome to the SEC game, if you will, for the Longhorns, even before they were even part of the conference.
Yeah, and as Sark mentioned today about that, it wasn't like Arkansas was a top SEC team. They were kind of a middle SEC team, and that gave he and his staff some idea of, all right, this is what the roster needs to look like. Now, granted, it was his first year, so his roster was what it was. He knew what he wanted to build and wasn't going to be able to do it overnight when he came from Alabama. But certainly he got a taste of the rivalry. It's funny because it's not been a consistent rivalry since the early 90s when they were both in the Southwest Conference. But they have played a handful of times. They played in the bowl game. Everyone remembers Brett Bielema's comments after beating Texas in the Texas Bowl down in Houston when Charlie Strong got Texas to a bowl game in his first year. So, yeah, it's one of those things where the older Texas fans know about the bad blood.
Sure.
The younger ones are being told about it, and that's what they'll be told about. Sark joked today, I don't know what Darrell Royal did to them, but they sure hate us. And Ed Clements, one of the senior reporters in Austin, said, well, Darrell Royal beat him in 1969. And
that was a fun exchange.
They haven't forgotten it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, take your reason. The bottom line is this is a much different Texas roster. They're heavily favored. I don't know if I can see them going in there. It's a 17-point favorite.
That's a big spread.
It's a big number, and Arkansas, when they're good, they've been really good. But they have had the Jekyll and Hyde thing going this year. They didn't play this past week, and they're coming off a game against Ole Miss where they gave up 63 points.
Yeah, and you look at that number, that's obviously a big number. Ole Miss's offense is very good. We all know that. But Arkansas's offense, they can be really, really good, especially when Taylon Green, their quarterback, is healthy and he's doing everything with his arms and his legs. I know, Roger, you asked Steve this question at the press conference. I mean, how does somebody prepare for a guy who's coming off a bye, who's getting healthy, and has just the measurables of a Taylon Green? Because first of all, he's enormous for a quarterback. He's 6'6", 230, and he can do the things that say a Florida's DJ Lagway could do.
Yeah, and Texas has not seen much of this. Michael Hawkins never really got going in the Oklahoma game.
Right.
They saw Alex Orji took maybe 2 or 3 snaps at quarterback at Michigan, and for the most part, they've played less athletic, less dynamic. So yeah, that's a huge concern. Longhorns have had good success, but it's such an X factor. And Sark mentioned how big he is, and so that's another element. So yeah, it's going to be tough. Jaquindon Jackson's a guy that actually started his career at Texas. He's their leading rusher. How about this number, Billy? Taylon Green averages 3.9 yards per carry. Not that great.
No.
He's got 199 yards in sack yardage, lost yardage. So you take that away, and you get the idea of what he's capable of. And we've seen him do it in big games against Tennessee. So hard to figure out Arkansas. Maybe Texas catches a break. It's 11 a.m. and not 7 p.m. in Fayetteville, but bottom line is, and that's why everyone going through all the gyrations of the postseason. Texas doesn't have any margin for error because all their wins are against the bottom part of the SEC.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. Their best win right now is Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
which
that's a decent
is
win.
looking pretty good.
Yeah,
right
they're
now.
3-3, but when
no-
you get to tiebreakers,
Right.
I don't know if that's going to help them.
Right. Yeah. No, lose to Georgia and then just don't play basically any of the other top echelon teams in the SEC. And we were looking at the tiebreakers the other day, and when it gets to cumulative win percentage over teams in the conference or whatever, then I mean that just goes out if you're Texas. Like you have to win, or you're probably not going to be playing in the SEC title game.
If you want to go down the rabbit hole, if say they were to drop Arkansas or Kentucky and then beat A&M, that obviously would immediately be their best win.
Right.
That might help in a tiebreaker, but as Sark said, easy path, and I don't even know if it's definite if they win out.
Right.
Would they be as a one-loss team because of going back to the tiebreakers? How would it all pan out? But I think if they win out, they're going to the college football playoff.
Right.
That's all they want to do is get a spot.
Right, yep. That's all you need is a spot at the table as far as that's concerned. So let's take a look at the rivalry here real quick. I know that it hasn't been played consistently since 1991 when they were both in the Southwest Conference. Texas leads the all-time series 56-23. There is a 15-in-a-row stretch that started the rivalry for the Longhorns to get a kind of head start on that. Their first meeting, we all remember this one, 1894. Texas wins 54-0. Their most recent meeting, we've talked about that. Arkansas just blasts Texas 40-21. And the Razorbacks have won 5 of the past 7 games, and like we've been saying, hasn't been consistently played since Arkansas left the Southwest Conference in after the 91 season to join the SEC, which then led Texas to join the Big 12 and basically the Southwest Conference being dissolved. I mean, as far as like the new fan is concerned, you don't really see this rivalry in the national sort of purview like you would the Texas A&M rivalry, even though that rivalry hasn't been played consistently either. So, I mean, where would you put this Texas-Arkansas rivalry as sort of like on a national stage, Roger?
Well, of the 3 rivalries right now, you have to put it at 3 with A&M, OU, and Arkansas.
Sure.
Just for what you said, they haven't played consistently. Now they haven't played A&M since obviously the last time they played in the Big 12. But
Justin Tucker
there's
game.
not that geographic and kind of in-state back and forth like they get with A&M, and obviously OU is what it is. You know, that was my first year as part of the Longhorn Radio Network was 2004, and my first ever road game was in Fayetteville. Texas went up there, and it was a night game. It was almost like an 8 o'clock start. It was really late. And to this day, I'll argue that was the loudest stadium I've ever been in. It was up for grabs, and Texas kind of snuck out a win. Vince Young was still early on in that junior season, so not quite as polished as we saw him, but they made enough plays. But that place was a nut house. And then, you know, in 2021, I was there, and obviously it was a great atmosphere, but Texas just couldn't match. They were figuring out quarterbacks. Hudson Card, Casey Thompson just didn't have enough firepower. But from a Venom kind of point of view, it's up with any.
Sure.
And I know opposite fans from Texas hate to hear this, but probably means a little bit more to Arkansas than to Texas because Arkansas doesn't have an A&M and they don't have an Oklahoma.
Sure.
So, you know, from that perspective, but, you know, bottom line is this is the next one. And Sark likes where they are. He loved the way they came out against Florida. Now you got to go do it on the road. They've had great success on the road, 10 in a row, true road games. So they've seemed to have found a formula, but formula is going to be kind of the formula of winning games. Take care of the ball, limit the penalties. They still can't quite do that.
No, they have 7 penalties for, I think, 70 yards against
and
Florida.
big ones, you know, personal fouls and holdings, calls on, you know, plus gains, which clearly sometimes that's why the gains are there. But, yeah, nothing else matters but coming home with a 1-point win for Texas. There's no need for anything else. Same thing with the Kentucky game in 2 weeks and obviously with A&M. They're going to be right up there. And here you see that Kentucky game was announced a 7:30 start. In the old days, Billy, we would say final home game. Not sure.
Yeah, we don't know.
Could host a playoff game if they don't get if they don't win the SEC, but they're one of the top half of the at-large teams, and they would host that weekend of December 19th and 20th. And then obviously the A&M game, we'll probably find out that time. Maybe not until after Kentucky. They might reserve the right to wait and see how all that pans out. But yeah, this Arkansas game, it's going to be a battle.
I was going to say, I think they still have one of those 6-game selection things left to use. So I mean, it might as well use it for that A&M game, right?
Yeah, if it's it could be for the SEC regular season title.
Yeah.
Clearly, I would think that would be a primetime game.
Yeah. Yeah. So Arkansas's coming up on Saturday, then Kentucky, then A&M. I mean, that's quite a stretch to end the season. I mean, we looked at Texas SEC schedule when they first released it, what seems like years ago. We thought it was kind of soft. No Alabama, no LSU, no Tennessee. There was Georgia, obviously, but no Ole Miss on there. And now, like as we get, as we're playing stuff out, and we start to look at all of these potential tiebreaker scenarios and things like that, and we've kind of mentioned it here earlier. Texas's schedule, not that great in the SEC. Like, it was better in the Big 12. That sounds weird to say.
You could put it up against, easy. You take the Big 12 schedule that they had last year, plug it in this year, and you could make that argument, because other than Georgia, you don't have a top ranked team on this schedule. I mean, Vanderbilt in and out of the top 25, but that's it. Just the way it goes. You know, I think people thought Florida would be vastly improved. Graham Mertz and even DJ Lagway, and he was unavailable. I think people thought Mississippi State was going to be down. Not sure they thought the A&M would be this good. So kind of what it is. It was the that stretch of Oklahoma, Georgia, and then see where else bumps in the road might come. But next year, 5 or 4 on the road. It's going to be interesting next year. But I mean, it's laid out pretty good for them.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see one game at a time, just like every coach in the country says, right?
We're all day to day.
We're all day to day. Oh, boy, aren't we?
Exactly.
Aren't we all? So 11 a.m. Saturday on ABC, Texas takes on Arkansas. That should be it at least should be fun. I mean,
no doubt.
Let's say Taylor Green is as healthy as he's ever been. Let's say the Texas offense is rolling like did against Florida. Maybe we get into a little fun shootout. Who knows?
Yeah, and this Texas defense has been really haven't slipped, other than Georgia when they gave them some short fields.
Yeah.
Florida scored a lot late, but that was well after it was decided. So they have yet to really get exposed. So I'll be interested to see how they handle Taylor Green in the open field, off schedule, all that. And then, if they can continue to keep it rolling on offense.
All right, well, we'll leave it there for this episode of the Horns Report. Thank you so much for watching. And for Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates, and we'll talk to you again very soon.